Have you ever had one of those days or maybe weeks where you feel like you're just swimming in emails, notifications pinging constantly, jumping from one thing to the next?
Oh, absolutely. Like you're running flat out.
Exactly. And then you get to the end of it all and you think, wait, what did I actually accomplish today? Did any of that frantic activity really create something valuable? It's this strange paradox, isn't it?
It really is. That sense of being constantly busy, yet maybe not truly productive. It feels like a hallmark of modern work life.
It does.
Yeah.
Almost like we're caught in this current. So the big question is, how do we push back? How do we find a way to do work that actually feels meaningful and, well, deep?
Well, that brings us neatly to our focus today. We're going to explore a really powerful idea as an antidote to all this.
Yeah.
The practice of focused, undistracted work.
And our guide for this exploration is Cal Newport's book, Deep Work. It's become quite influential. Our goal here isn't just to talk about it, but to really unpack what this kind of work is, why it seems so hard to find time for it nowadays, and importantly, how cultivating it can genuinely make your professional life more productive and honestly, more satisfying. We want to pull out some practical strategies you can actually use.
Sounds good. Where should we start?
Let's nail down the definition first. What does Newport actually mean by deep work?
Okay, so he defines it pretty clearly. It's the professional stuff you do in a state of complete concentration, no distractions. And crucially, it pushes your thinking abilities right to their limit.
So it's not just busy work.
Not at all. The whole point is that this kind of effort creates new value, it improves your skills, makes you better at what you do, and importantly, it's hard for someone else to just jump in and replicate it easily.
Right, and he contrasts that with shallow work, is that the term?
Exactly. Shallow work is, well, the opposite. It doesn't demand intense brain power. Think logistical tasks, quick emails back and forth, scheduling meetings, admin stuff, often done while you're distracted, maybe juggling a few things.
And the key difference is the value created.
Precisely. Shallow work creates little new value, and it's typically easy for almost anyone to do.
What's interesting, though, is that this idea, this need for deep focus, it isn't really new, is it? Even though the term might be.
Not at all. It's fascinating, actually. Newport highlights historical figures who seem to instinctively understand this, long before we had email or Slack demanding our attention.
Can you give us an example? Who are we talking about?
Well, a great one is Carl Jung. Back in the 1920s, he built this sort of rustic stone tower, a retreat called Bowling Inn.
Ah, yes, I've read about that. By a lake.
That's the one, by Lake Zurich. And this wasn't, a fancy vacation spot. It was purpose-built for deep thinking. He had a strict routine there.
What did that look like?
Up early, big breakfast, then straight into his private office for 2 hours of completely uninterrupted writing. No distractions. Afternoons were for walks, meditation, and get this, no electricity.
Wow. Just oil lamps.
Just oil lamps. He said the feeling of renewal there was intense, and it was in that focused environment that he produced some of his most important work, like psychological types. That's where he really broke from Freud's ideas. He needed that depth.
It paints such a picture, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Building a literal fortress against distraction. You mentioned others, too.
Yeah, briefly, like Michel de Montaigne, the essayist, he had his library in a tower, or Mark Twain.
Oh, Twain, what does he do?
He had this isolated shed at Quarry Farm. Apparently, his family had to blow a horn to call him for meals because he was so zoned in.
Huh. A dinner horn. That's commitment. It really shows this isn't just a modern reaction to technology. It's a timeless need for concentration.
It really is. And bringing it to today, there's a strong economic argument for why this focus is more critical than ever. Eric Brynjolfsson and Andrew McAfee talk about this in Race Against the Machine. They call it the Great Restructuring.
Okay, what does that mean, the great restructuring?
Basically, digital tech is shaking up the labor market. As machines get smarter, employers increasingly want one of two things. Either the new machines themselves, or humans who can do things machines can't, highly specialized star performers.
Right, which leads to that superstar effect, doesn't it? Where the very best in a field can command huge audiences or rewards because technology makes them accessible everywhere. Location doesn't matter as much.
Exactly. A top coder, a brilliant consultant,
Okay.
they can work from anywhere. So those at the very peak do incredibly well while it gets tougher for others.
That sounds a bit intimidating, frankly.
Yeah.
How does someone listening even aim for that star category?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Newport argues there are two core abilities you absolutely need in this economy. First, the ability to master hard things quickly.
Okay,
Yeah,
like learning complex software or a new technical skill.
precisely. Like really getting your head around complex SQL databases or statistical software like Stata, the kind Nate Silver used for his incredibly detailed political models. Mastering that stuff requires intense, uninterrupted focus.
And the second ability.
The ability to produce at an elite level. Both quality and speed matter.
So how does deep work tie into mastering hard things?
It's fundamental. It connects directly to the idea of deliberate practice. You need to focus your attention very tightly on the specific skill you're trying to improve, and you need feedback to adjust. Neurologically, Daniel Coyle talks about myelin.
Myelin, that's the fatty tissue around nerve fibers.
That's right.
Hmm.
It acts like insulation on a wire, letting brain circuits fire faster and more cleanly. And crucially, building up that myelin, which makes you better and faster at complex tasks, is really only triggered effectively by intense, isolated focus if you're constantly switching tasks.
You're basically short-circuiting the process.
You got it. You're hindering your brain's ability to build those super fast pathways.
This is all fascinating stuff. And actually, before we dig deeper into why this focus is so rare, I just want to quickly welcome everyone who's listening or maybe watching us over on our YouTube channel, Audiobook Quiver.
Oh, right. Hello, everyone.
Yeah, if you're enjoying this discussion and finding it useful, we really appreciate it if you could take a second to like the video, maybe follow the channel, and definitely hit that notification bell.
It really does help us keep these conversations going and bring more explorations like this one your way.
Absolutely. So, thanks for tuning in. Okay, back to it. If deep work is so valuable, neurologically and economically, why is it so hard to come by in our everyday work lives?
Well, there are a few big reasons. One major culprit Newport identifies as something called attention residue.
Attention residue sounds sticky.
Huh, it kind of is. Research by Sophie Leroy found that when you switch from task A to task B, part of your attention stays stuck on task A for a while. It leaves a residue.
Okay. So you're not fully present on the new task.
Exactly. And this residue is apparently thicker and more performance damaging if you switched before finishing task A, or if task A was kind of low intensity. It really dampens your cognitive performance on task B.
And I guess modern tools just amplify this, like instant messaging.
Oh, massively. Gloria Mark did studies actually observing knowledge workers. She found even really short interruptions, quick IM, an email notification you glance at, lead to surprisingly long delays in getting back on track with the original task. She called the whole experience detrimental.
I believe it. And it's not just the time loss switching, it's the mental cost too, right? There was that story about Atlantic Media.
Tom Cochran's experiment. Yeah, that was eye-opening. He tracked his own email time nearly an hour and a half a day just processing messages.
Just processing, not even writing complex replies.
Right, and when he extrapolated that company-wide, it was costing them over $1 million a year in labor just for people to handle email. He said it was like buying a small Learjet every year.
Wow. A Learjet made of emails. But the real kicker is that it's hard to see this cost, isn't it? In knowledge work, measuring individual contribution is tricky.
That's the metric black hole problem he talks about. Because it's hard to measure the impact of deep work versus shallow work directly, these seemingly harmless, focus-killing behaviors like constant emailing just persist. There's no clear feedback loop saying stop.
Which leads to, the path of least resistance.
Exactly, the principle of least resistance. In a business setting, if there's no clear feedback on what actions really drive results, people naturally drift towards the easiest behaviors in the moment, which often means being visibly busy.
The busyness is proxy for productivity idea. Gotta look busy, send lots of emails, attend all the meetings.
Right, because if no one knows exactly how your deep thinking contributes value, being visibly active becomes a stand-in for actual productivity, but it's often counterproductive. Remember that Boston Consulting Group study?
The one where they force consultants to take time off?
Yeah, Leslie Perlow's study. They made one team take a predictable night or day completely off no connectivity, and the result wasn't disaster. They actually reported better results for the client, better communication, more enjoyment.
So being always on wasn't actually helping the work get done better. It might have been hurting it.
That's what the evidence suggested. Sometimes less connectivity equals more productivity.
You know, thinking about that feeling of accomplishment, it makes me think about craftsmanship. Newport uses the example of a blacksmith, Rick Furr.
Ah, yeah, the tangible output.
Exactly. Someone doing meticulous hands-on work like that, they get a clear sense of purpose, something real they've created.
Hmm.
It's so different from what Newport calls the often ambiguous and exhausting roil of emails and PowerPoint that defines a lot of knowledge work.
It's true. That lack of tangible output can make it hard to feel a deep sense of meaning in knowledge work. But there's a neurological reason why deep work itself can create that meaning. Winifred Gallagher talks about this in her book Wrapped.
Okay, what's the neurological angle?
Gallagher argues our brain basically builds our reality based on what we pay attention to. When you really focus intensely on something worthwhile, you essentially hijack your brain's attention system.
Hijack it.
Yeah, in a good way. It shields you from all the smaller, nagging, less pleasant stuff vying for your attention. By focusing deeply, the work itself starts to feel more important, more positive. You're kind of curating your own mental experience.
Interesting. And psychologically, is there something similar?
Absolutely. This ties right into Csikszentmihalyi's famous concept of flow.
Right, being in the zone.
Exactly. He found that people often report being happier and more fulfilled at work than during leisure time, surprisingly, because work often has built-in goals, rules, challenges, things that encourage deep immersion. When you're in flow, as he puts it, there is no attention left over to think about anything irrelevant.
So the feeling of deep focus itself is rewarding.
Hugely rewarding. It makes the experience of living, of working, feel more worthwhile. That absorption is intrinsically satisfying.
Okay, so we're sold on the value, the meaning. But how do we actually do it? Especially when our lives are already so full. Newport talks about different approaches, right? Different philosophies for scheduling this.
He does. He outlines 4 main philosophies, recognizing that one size doesn't fit all. The first is the most intense, the monastic philosophy.
Monastic. Sounds serious. Like monks.
Pretty much. Think of someone like the computer scientist Donald Knuth, famous guy. He literally hasn't used email since 1990.
1990. How does he even function?
He argues his work requires such long, uninterrupted periods of concentration that email would destroy it. Or Neil Stephenson, the sci-fi author, he says his productivity is nonlinear. He needs huge, unbroken chunks of time. So these folks basically eliminate or radically minimize shallow obligations altogether.
Wow. Okay, that's aspirational, maybe, but probably not realistic for most of us. What's next?
Right. So next is the bimodal philosophy. This is about dividing your time into clearly defined stretches. Some long stretches are dedicated purely to deep work, totally isolated, but then you have other periods where you're fully available for everything else, the shallow stuff.
Ah, like Jung again. His tower retreats versus his busy practice in Zurich.
Exactly. He didn't live in the tower year-round. He alternated. And the BCG study we mentioned, where consultants took 1 guaranteed day off connectivity each week, shows this kind of partitioning can work even in demanding corporate jobs.
Okay, that feels a bit more achievable. Balancing deep chunks with normal work life. But what if you can't just disappear for days, or even a full day regularly?
Good question. That leads to the rhythmic philosophy. This is about making deep work a regular daily habit, turning it into a rhythm.
Like a workout routine.
Sort of, yeah. The classic example is Jerry Seinfeld's Don't Break the Chain method. He got a big wall calendar, and for every day he wrote jokes, he put a big red X over that day. After a few days, you have a chain. Your only job then is, don't break the chain.
Simple, but effective. Creates momentum.
Exactly. It builds consistency. Newport mentions a PhD student, Brian Chappell, who used this successfully for his dissertation writing. It's great when you need regular progress, but can't block off huge chunks of time.
Okay, monastic, bimodal, rhythmic. What's the fourth?
The journalistic philosophy. This one is perhaps the hardest to pull off consistently. It involves fitting deep work into any unexpected pockets of free time that pop up in your day.
Like a journalist on deadline-grabbing moments whenever they can.
Precisely. Walter Isaacson, the biographer, is given as an example. Someone who knew him described how, even on a casual beach rental vacation, Isaacson would suddenly disappear into a bedroom for 20 minutes or an hour. You'd hear typing. Then he'd reappear, totally relaxed. He trained himself to switch into deep work mode almost instantly whenever an opportunity arose, a canceled meeting, kids napping, whatever.
That takes serious discipline. You'd have to be able to flip that switch really fast.
Very fast. It requires a lot of confidence in your ability to be productive on demand. But for people with highly unpredictable schedules, it might be the only viable way to carve out deep work time.
So those are the broad scheduling approaches. Are there other, more tactical things Newport suggests?
Oh yeah, plenty. One big one is to ritualize your deep work sessions. Don't just wait for inspiration or the mood to strike.
Create a routine around it.
Exactly. Like Robert Caro, the biographer, who has incredibly strict rules for his office environment. Or Charles Darwin, who had his structured daily walks where he did his thinking. The point is to have a defined process. Where will you work? For how long? What are the rules? No internet. How will you measure progress?
Having that structure reduces the mental effort of starting.
Right. It automates the lead up.
Yeah.
Another tactic is to make grand gestures.
Grand gestures, like what? Proposing to your work.
Huh. Sort of. It's about doing something significant to signal the importance of the deep work task. Think J.K. Rowling. She was struggling to finish the Deathly Hallows at home with distractions.
So she checked into that fancy hotel in Edinburgh, the Balmoral.
Exactly. That radical change of environment, plus the significant cost, psychologically amplified the importance of the task. It helped her focus and finish the book. Other writers build dedicated cabins or sheds.
Like Twain.
Like Twain. It's about creating a dedicated, almost sacred space or making a significant investment that underscores the commitment.
Interesting. What else?
He also says, maybe counterintuitively, don't work alone. But he doesn't mean collaborate during deep work. He means structure your work environment to allow for both focused isolation and beneficial collisions with others.
Bob and spoke idea.
That's the one. He uses the example of MIT's old Building 20. It was this ramshackle building that threw different departments together. The messy layout led to lots of chance encounters and collaborations, the hub effect. But people still had their offices the spokes for concentration. You need both serendipity and solitude.
Okay, so structure your space and time for both interaction and isolation. And finally, he mentions the 4DX framework.
Right, the 4 disciplines of execution. It's a framework from the consulting world, but he applies it to deep work. First, focus on the wildly important goals. WIGs. You need 1 or 2 really ambitious, measurable goals that deep work will achieve, like publish X papers this year.
Gives your deep work a clear target.
Exactly. Second, act on lead measures. These are the actions you control that drive the WIG. The most obvious one for deep work is tracking the hours spent in intense concentration.
So you focus on the input, the hours, not just the output.
Precisely. Third, keep a compelling scoreboard. Make your progress on those lead measures visible. Newport himself apparently kept a simple tally of deep work hours on a card by his monitor. Seeing the hours accumulate is motivating and helps you learn how much effort specific outcomes require.
Makes it tangible. What's the 4th discipline?
Oh, right. The 4th is create a cadence of accountability. Regularly review your scoreboard, figure out what's working, what's not, and commit to actions for the next week. It keeps the focus sharp.
Okay, that's a lot of practical stuff.
Yeah.
But underlying all this is the ability to actually concentrate, right? It's not just about scheduling, it's about mental fitness.
Absolutely critical. Newport emphasizes that intense concentration is a skill you have to train, like lifting weights for your brain. It's not just about willpower. He gives the example of Adam Marlin studying the Talmud daily.
Right, the brain strain he mentions.
Yeah, that intense daily practice built mental endurance that then paid off with creative insights in his business.
So if concentration is a muscle, how do we strengthen it in a world designed to distract us?
That's the challenge. A key step is you have to actively wean your mind from its dependence on distraction. Clifford Nass's research at Stanford was pretty stark on this.
What did he find?
He found that people who are constantly multitasking online, switching attention rapidly, it seems to have lasting negative effects on their ability to concentrate, filter irrelevant information, and even switch tasks efficiently when needed. It's like it erodes your focus muscle.
Ouch. So constantly checking your phone is literally making it harder to focus later.
That seems to be the implication, which is why Newport strongly advocates for scheduling your internet use even outside of work hours. And crucially, practice taking breaks from focus, not from distraction.
What does that mean exactly?
It means when you're not in a scheduled work block or internet block, resist the urge to immediately fill the space with stimulation. If you're waiting in line, commuting, whatever, just wait. Be bored.
Just stand there. Be bored. That sounds uncomfortable.
It is at first, but it's incredibly valuable training. You're teaching your brain it's okay not to have constant input, rebuilding your tolerance for focus and resistance to distracting stimuli.
Okay, I can see the logic. What about using downtime more actively?
That brings us to productive meditation. This isn't about emptying your mind, but using periods of physical activity where your mind is otherwise unoccupied, like walking, jogging, showering, commuting, to focus on a single, well-defined professional problem.
Like Theodore Roosevelt's thinking walks.
Exactly like that. You mull over the problem, gently bringing your focus back when it wanders, much like mindfulness meditation. But the goal is insight. It trains focus and leverages downtime for breakthroughs, while also helping restore your directed attention capacity.
And speaking of downtime, Newport also makes a point about evenings, right?
Yeah.
About shutting down properly.
Yes. He references Anders Ericsson's work, showing that even elite performers have a daily limit on truly intense cognitive work, maybe 4 hours tops. So trying to cram in more deep work late at night is often counterproductive.
Better to just stop.
Better to have a clear shutdown ritual, a consistent routine at the end of your workday to review tasks, make a plan for tomorrow, and then consciously declare the workday over. This helps prevent that attention residue from bleeding into your personal time and allows your brain to properly rest and recharge.
Makes sense. Okay, let's talk tools. We live in a digital world. How do we manage the constant barrage of tools and platforms?
Newport proposes what he calls the craftsman approach to tool selection. This contrasts sharply with the default any benefit mindset.
The any benefit mindset being, if a tool offers any potential advantage, however small, you should use it.
Pretty much like, well, Twitter might get me a few extra readers, so I guess I have to be on it. The craftsman, instead, is much more discerning. They identify their core professional goals, the high-value activities, and then adopt a tool only if its positive impact on those core activities substantially outweighs its negative impacts, like time fragmentation and attention cost.
Like a woodworker carefully choosing the right chisel for the job, not just grabbing every tool in the shop.
Exactly. It's about intentionality.
So how do you apply that? He mentions the 80-20 rule.
Right, the law of the vital few. Identify the small number of activities, probably just 2 or 3, that genuinely produce most of the value in your professional and personal life. Then, for any optional network tool, like most social media, ask, does this tool's positive impact on these vital few goals substantially outweigh its negatives?
And be honest about it.
Brutally honest. He uses Michael Lewis, the author, as an example. Lewis avoids Twitter. Not because it has zero benefit, it might offer minor marketing boosts, but because those minor benefits are massively outweighed by the potential drag on his core activities, deep research and focused writing.
So it's a cost-benefit analysis focused on what truly matters.
Precisely. And to help with this analysis, he suggests a practical experiment, the 30-day trial deactivation.
Just quit a tool for 30 days, cold turkey.
For optional network tools, yes. And here's the key part. Don't tell anyone. Don't announce your hiatus.
Why not?
2 reasons. First, it lets you assess if anyone actually missed your contributions on that platform, a reality check on its importance to others. Second, it helps you see if your life got noticeably worse without it. Often, people find they didn't miss much, and nobody else really noticed they were gone. It breaks that illusion of obligation.
That's a powerful, if potentially humbling, experiment. Okay, what about managing the shallow stuff within the workday? How do you minimize that?
One idea is to actively drain the shallows. He points to the company 37 Signals, now Basecamp, who famously experimented with a 4-day workweek.
Right, less time forces more focus.
Exactly. Their co-founder, Jason Fried, said fewer hours squeeze the fat out. When time is scarce, people become much more stingy with it. They stop wasting it on low-value tasks and prioritize what matters. You might not be able to change your company's work week, but you can apply the principle. Schedule your day tightly, estimate time for tasks, and be ruthless about protecting deep work blocks.
And then there's the email beast. Any specific tips there?
Yes, several quite bold ones. First, make people who send you email do more work.
How do you get away with that?
By setting up filters before the email hits your inbox, Newport has a contact page that routes inquiries. Another example is Clay Herbert, who apparently made people check an FAQ, fill out a survey, and even pay a small deposit before they could message him directly. It drastically cuts down low-value incoming mail by making the sender invest more effort.
Sense expectations.
Yep.
Okay, what else?
Use process-centric email responses. When you do reply, make your emails very clear about the goal, the necessary context, and the suggested next steps required to close the loop on the issue. It might feel a bit formal or stilted at first, but the aim is to minimize back and forth cycles and mental clutter for everyone involved.
Makes sense. Get to the point, define the next action.
Exactly. And finally, perhaps the most radical, don't respond.
Just ignore emails.
Not all of them, but adopt a professorial filter. If an email is ambiguous, irrelevant, or makes an unreasonable request where nothing good would happen if you replied and nothing bad would happen if you didn't, consider not responding. It requires judgment, but it reclaims significant time and attention.
Wow. That requires some courage, I think, in today's always-on culture.
It definitely does. All of this requires a conscious effort, a willingness to push back against the defaults.
It really does. So bringing this all together, it seems clear that cultivating this kind of focused work isn't easy. It takes effort, maybe some uncomfortable changes to your habits, resisting that constant pull of distraction.
Definitely. It's a struggle against the current in many ways.
But the payoff, as Newport lays it out, seems huge.
Yeah.
Not just in terms of productivity, getting more valuable stuff done, but in finding a deeper sense of meaning and satisfaction in your work.
Absolutely. That choice, the deliberate choice to resist the shallow, to really struggle to use your mind to its fullest potential on things that matter, that's where the real rewards lie. It's about crafting not just valuable work, but a valuable life, a life where your attention is aligned with your deepest values.
A powerful thought to end on. Thank you for joining us for this exploration into deep work. And for everyone listening or watching, if you found this valuable, please do remember to like, follow, and hit that notification bell on our YouTube channel, Audiobook Quiver. It helps us bring you more conversations like this.
Thanks for tuning in.
Until next time, keep thinking, keep learning, and keep